Today I want to walk you through how to use AI, specifically ChatGPT, to create a strong contingency plan. This video offers a detailed outline for analyzing and preparing for various risks. It leverages AI's problem-solving abilities to significantly reduce any threats your business might be facing. It covers 10 detailed real-world prompts, allowing you to tailor this approach to your unique business context. You'll also pick up some valuable AI skills that you'll use for years. In fact, I want to show you how to do a little AI jujitsu, turning AI from something you dread into a source of calm. The ultimate goal here is to foster an adaptive mindset and turn these disruptions and changes from sources of stress into opportunities for growth and innovation. This video covers everything from identifying and analyzing the potential risks to creating the contingency plan to implementing it and reviewing it. And the final 3 prompts offer guidance on communication strategies for both internal and external audiences, ensuring that the right people get the right messages at the right times. Because in times of crisis, effective communication is critical. Today we'll be using a digital marketing agency as our example. I have a cheat sheet version of this available in my Patreon. It includes all of these prompts as well as some additional prompts and resources. And I'd like to say that all of these prompts work best on ChatGPT 4. That's the paid version of ChatGPT. All right, are you ready to dive in? It all starts with this risk analysis section, and the first step to the risk analysis is getting a large menu of potential risks that you might be facing. So here are a couple prompts to help you do that. Again, the example we're using today is the digital marketing agency. Obviously, you would want to put your whatever your business is in there. And I like to start really general here just to see what ChatGPT kicks back. Here's an example of that. You can see the prompt here asking it to generate a list for a digital marketing agency, and it can generate quite a few things here. Obviously, this generated a few that were right on the money and a few that I had not thought about. So from here, you want to take a look at all of these, and the follow-up prompt that I just showed you in that last screen is to look through these and figure out which ones seem the most critical to your contingency plan. So you can see I followed this up with number 5 feels the most critical by far, but also numbers 1, 8, and 20 feel important. Can you expand on those? And then that way you let the large language model dive in a little deeper to each of those. And I think it's important to note that I'm using ChatGPT today, but obviously there are many other LLMs out there that all have various strengths. So these prompts should work with any large language model of your choice. So those are the first 2 prompts I have for the risk analysis section. Now we want to get into the risk assessment. So once we've kind of honed in on a handful of the risks we feel that are the most critical, we want to dive a little bit deeper into those, into their impact, etc., and try to figure out how to best address those in the end. So this prompt, very short prompt, but it can yield some amazing results. So can you provide a framework for assessing these risks? Flipping back to my example here, the response here I think was really phenomenal, and just getting this far, you have come quite a ways just in 2 to 3 prompts of getting some ideas about how to build a contingency strategy, because it gives you some ideas on the framework that it's listing out, and then different ways to look at each of these risks, and then it'll apply those to the list of risks that you have identified previously. So again, these are different ways of analyzing risks, and then it applies those in a very short, concise format to the risks that we assess. So this really allows you to begin to understand and prioritize these different potential risks for your contingency plan. Moving right along. Now we want to do a little analysis of your business. So let's see what it came up with here. It talks about the most critical points for this example of this digital marketing agency: marketing and client acquisition, service delivery. So in first few steps, we're looking at the risks. Next step here, we're looking at all of the different critical functions of the agency itself and listing these out. And now we're getting into the actual contingency strategy formulation. And this includes looking at all the risks and planning out all the different potential scenarios and responses to those scenarios. And we'll also look at different responses to drops in revenue and what you can do and the levers that you might be able to pull. We'll also look at different questions that you can ask the LLM, that you can ask ChatGPT to ask you in order to get the most accurate, efficient, and effective responses out of the AI. So the first one here is, for each identified risk, devise a strategy response. The plan could entail managing the risk, transferring it, like insurance, accepting it, or avoiding it. Your plan should offer explicit instructions on the course of action to take. So let's take a little peek, flip back, see what ChatGPT came up with, and now we're getting into the core of the plan already. We're only 4 or 5 prompts in, and we've got a pretty significant group of risks that have been identified, that have been analyzed, and are now pulling together a plan of attack for how to address these. Some of these are things you can do immediately, and some of these are things that you can do only when the threat arises. So you can see here we're quickly moving into a pretty strong contingency plan. From there, help me identify the necessary resources, which might be financial, human, physical equipment, to support these contingency plans. And then ask me any questions you might have in order to generate a highly custom response. So if you're not getting the response that you want out of the LLM, this is a nice little addition to almost any prompt that'll allow it to get more information about you, so its response can be more highly tailored to exactly what you are looking to achieve with it. So you can see here, it gave me a list of questions. You don't need a thorough, 10-page response to each one of these questions. Just quick and dirty, get through them, give it some information. There's going to be some questions that don't apply or that would require an extensive conversation with it. I think it's best to just start with some quick and dirty responses. You can see here, I just whipped together a quick paragraph. I also like to use the app for this. There's a ChatGPT app where you can just speak your answers in. Sometimes that might be a faster way to go with all of this. But once I added some additional information, this began to then tailor all of its previous responses to my particular situation. Okay, we are cruising right along. This one is a great prompt, and this is something I've learned through many years of working with different consultants and doing contingency plans with them, is to take a look at what would happen if your revenue went down by 25%, if your revenue went down by 50%, or if it went down even by 75%. How might you adjust? And we can take a flip back here to see what ChatGPT came up with here, and it asked some questions, which was very helpful, very appropriate questions. What are your fixed expenses versus your variable expenses, contractual obligations, etc. Drills into what it needs to know to actually answer that question. So again, I just plowed through those answers fairly quickly, and it came up with different ways to approach these different levels of decreasing revenue and what you might need to do to address those. So I think that's a really powerful prompt. That's one that I would definitely take a screenshot of, or again, I have all these in the cheat sheet, but you can also think of the reverse of that. So contingency plans, I think we often think of as a negative, but they can be also positive as well. You might get an increase in revenue. Certain things might change and the team starts clicking and things are going up and up. So, this could be a whole video in and of itself, but here's just the reverse of that last one. If you do start to generate more and more revenue, what are the healthiest ways to scale? How much of that should you save, etc. So, that can be helpful to think about rather than always thinking about the dark side of contingency planning. Moving along, now we're getting into, actually implementing this to some degree. So help me develop a communication strategy for effective internal and external communications after a disruptive event. So this gives you a map for internal communications during the disruption, after the disruption, external communications, and you can fine tune these then to very specific risks that you might be facing. So these are somewhat general, but I think you might say if XYZ happens, how do we communicate that versus a different risk happening? So these are all ways where you can start to plan that communication process. And now we're getting into the implementation. So drafting a document of this. This is a prompt. I use this a lot. Can you help me create a document of this contingency plan to distribute? So taking everything that you've done and just having it formatted for you in a nice, clean way. So this is all the research that you've done so far. pulling that into an executive summary, table of contents. You can see there's areas here where it wants you to just copy and paste from its answers above, but this is a really nice way to format everything that you've done so far with the large language model. And we're getting close to the end here. What are some creative ways to ensure our contingency plan is easily accessible to all its employees, including those working remotely? Here are some ways that you can put this in the web portal, mobile app, virtual reality. It gets a little bit, maybe a little bit theoretical, but you can dive into and explore some of the more tangible ways that it can help you disseminate this across a remote team. Okay, so I think that is all that I wanted to cover today in the cheat sheet version of this. It does go there. I think we covered 10 prompts in this video. I think there are over 20 with very specific, getting into specific situations. There's a lot more in that implementation and review on how you can test out the plan, review the plan, etc., and additional resources there. So if you got something out of this video, please consider checking out my Patreon. Again, I've got that cheat sheet. I've got dozens of others. I put out at least 1 to 2 of those every week, learning new AI skills for different business leaders. There's some coaching options in there. I'd love to chat with you, help you implement this with your team if that's something you're interested in. But otherwise, thanks a ton for watching, and please feel free to subscribe, to like, to leave a comment. I love hearing from you. If there's a video that you want me to cover, let me know. Otherwise, I will see you on the next one.
Do it! Make your dreams come true!